Yeah, it's part of that. So melee combat does ship with 3.8, and it's a lot more than just that, but it's non-lethal takedowns. You'll be able to fight.
To knock people out.
Knock people out, get into fisticuffs. There's a whole sort of different levels of punch, left, right, block, left, right. It's all actually physically based. So we've grabbed something kind of warm, but we're not really ready to it. We've actually stashed a getaway environment suit. And Richard Trier, I want to bring up to the stage. So Richard's the lead designer on our actor feature team, and I'd like him to talk a little about what is happening right here and the beginning of the actor status system that will ship in 3.9.
So what you're seeing here is basically an extension of the room system, and the room system contains temperature, wind speed, humidity, and it basically amalgamates all of that into what you're seeing on the HUD at the moment, which is the apparent temperature. So the apparent temperature actually comes in and is part of our player status system. And the player status system is where you start to feel these environments, and the actual environments start to play into the gameplay. So you can see here that actually the physicalized wind, he's actually leaning into the wind, he's putting his hand up to try and shield himself, but he's not wearing the correct attire. So he's not wearing the correct equipment, because he's just basically grabbed the clothes and jumped outside. And as you can see, it's really cold. So he's starting to shiver.
A bottom side here, it is.
Yeah, it's like
minus
120 degrees Celsius. So obviously, you can only survive at like at least 2-3 minutes in that temperature. So he's actually starting to undergo hypothermia, which is part of our status effects. And hypothermia actually ties into the gameplay. So his heart starts to raise, his stamina starts to decrease, he starts to actually physically start to see, you'll see a whiteout, so he starts to become more sensitive to the light, and his audio will start to come in as well, to actually really sell that your body is shutting down. And the player status system really, it just incorporates multiple different things. So hypothermia is part of the temperature gameplay, and you're seeing the cold aspect here. But eventually that will be for heat, as well as other actor statuses as well. But you can see here, it's starting to see the other value on here that you see is the apparent temperature, but the other value is the body temperature. Now the body temperature is tracking your internal body. So, and I think it's, what is it down by now? It's like down at like 33 degrees.
We forgot
Celsius.
to put the drop shadow on the thing. And so we're not in this suit. We actually have a suit that we stashed in the cave, which we're looking for. The other thing that you may have noticed when Glenn was going to the third-person view, but we're working on environmental shader effects. So there was snow accumulation on the jacket that he wore. You notice, you go back and look at what it was when he got it and what it is now. And with that, accumulation is meant to be for things like snow, rain, dust, dirt, and that's something that we're looking to have in 3.9. So you really feel the environment.
The biome, that basically your environment. So it'll build up over time.
Build up. So we better get a warm suit on, because otherwise we're going to essentially pass out and then die.
So this suit is actually cold, so hopefully when Glenn puts it on, you'll see actually that it's actually frosted, so you can see your actor's actually shivering here as he's putting it on. And this suit is the Caldera suit that we revealed in the character archetype talk, and this is an environment suit that's built for these extreme climates. He's really cold. He's really cold.
So you'll see the visor's frosted up.
You can see,
and
this is like getting into your car when it's frozen. It's frozen, the visor's actually frosted up, your suit's frosted up, and as your suit kicks in, this suit has an operating range that can actually survive these temperatures.
So and if we go, and you'll see it now, because the same effects that we saw on the windshield, you definitely see
So think of it like your car.
So a visor, you're going to see, because it's a big winter storm, snow, slush that's warm in here as it's going out though, it's going to start to get slush, and what we're going to see is is tough. And then I think the other person that I'd like to bring up is Mike Snowden, who's the director of our visual effects, and his team is being responsible for all the environmental weather effects here. And this is what we're doing on the snow side, but it same could work in, a desert planet for dust, rain, and we've actually prototyped a lot of this stuff outside snow, but you're seeing the snow has been our a first example. So I don't know if you want to talk about some of the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so this is all, the main thing about these effects is they're completely data-driven. So I'll put a lot of time into creating these rule sets. The way that we author the effects is completely different to anything we've done before, because we know that we can make beautiful looking storm effects, but the really cool thing about this, no pun intended, is that it's literally the data that the Planet gives us. So this ties in with the Planetech V4, which obviously we're showing off today. It ties in with all the active status stuff. So it's like bringing everything together. So they look fantastic, but they're completely driven by what the game data is.
Yeah, the temperature, altitude, humidity, and so it's systemic, and it's
I mean,
and it'll be affected by time of day and other things.
Absolutely,
so
I mean, so the rule sets are things like temperature, even elevation, wind strength, wind direction, even angle. There's a lot of complexity in the rule set that makes it really easy actually for us in the long term to make the effects across all the kind of hundreds of planets that will eventually.
Yeah, exactly, and obviously you can see the effect of the winds on the vegetation. So, and as you see here, we're in fog. You see the snow. Our visor is getting, it's like you would be, in a snowstorm if you were skiing or out there. So we stashed the suit. We actually had a rover that we've stashed that goes in our Carrack.
So
we're looking for right now.
One of the things before we go on too far, the other thing is with the armors, you will run into planets that are outside your temperature range, and so you might last there for 15 minutes. But obviously, we want to make sure that it's very lucrative for you to be able to, go in there and risk reward gameplay for it.
Yeah, so be equipped. That's why you would have a big ship and buy different armor and store it. Okay, so here's our rover, which we've hidden with a little top, and this is going to be a much more larger example of the cloth interaction system. So, all right, Glenn, let's get the top off and get into the rover. Okay, we can drop it now. And again, that's an example of all the physics stuff coming together, the cloth interacting, the wind's blowing it.
And the wind itself here, one thing I wanted to call out is that the wind is different strengths depending on where you are. So if you're down in the tree line or in the troughs, the wind is a lot slower, and then as you get more exposed, that wind comes out. So it really is a dynamic environment.
And as you see, as we get into here now, the temperatures come up, the water's evaporating from our visor, and we have a clearer view. But of course, the outside of the rover now will have the effect on its canopy. All right, let's let Sam know that she needs to pick us up. After we've engaged the systems, I guess.
Welcome to Knowledge Space Industries. Enjoy one system check.
This isn't going to work because of the go-to setup. The go-tos break the dialogue.
I'm going to need a pickup.
Yeah.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, I'm going to need a pickup down the bottom of the hill.
On my way.
Okay.
Right, good. We actually, that breaks in our system because we have a little background zoom to the right place, which doesn't actually do the server check right. So it hasn't streamed, and it's actually, you are seeing some of the stuff because this is in server OCS, so we don't have everything all the time now. So when things go in and out, we've still got edge cases, and that's one of the issues that we have to fix before server OCS haven't, but it'll be fine. So let's.
Also, this is precarious, so make sure you get a little noisy for Glenn.
Oh. All right.
Oh. Ooh, yeah, he's coming. He's coming.
You can see the fog's starting to thin out now as we're going a little further down. That's
Yeah. So,
again.
like as we're further down, it's not quite as thick. The weather is not quite as intense. I know, he's scaring the shit out of me.
There he goes.
Show off, Glenn.